Very excited to talk to Saasha Celestial-One, co-founder of Olio, food sharing app. They have 8 million users worldwide. It's in 60 countries.
We were absolutely convinced that we needed to leave the corporate world and try and tackle an environmental challenge at scale. 40% of all the food that we produce is never eaten, and that food loss accounts for 10% of global carbon emissions. People come for a functional reason, but they stay because there's not that many ways that you can meet someone like-minded in real life.
We're back on the Modular podcast. We're here in London. Very excited to talk to Saasha Celestial-One, co-founder of Olio, food sharing app, but not only food sharing.
Correct.
They have 8 million users worldwide. You raised 43 million euros in you said Series B?
That was Series B, about 4 years ago.
About 4 years ago. So this is a serious platform and spreading. It's in 60 countries, as I understand. So super excited to talk to you. And I just want to pick your brain about how you started and the initial problem you were trying to solve, and maybe could you take us back to the early days and tell us how it all got started?
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. So 10 years ago today, basically, I was sat with my best friend Tessa, and we had met in business school 20 years ago, and we'd always tossed around the idea of starting a business together. We're both sort of nutcases about the environment. And so we'd sort of dabbled and then gone back to the real world and dabbled and gone back to the real world. But this time we were new mothers, and we were absolutely convinced that we needed to put our sort of collective skills and experience together, leave the corporate world, and try and tackle an environmental challenge at scale. So we sort of went out looking for a problem to solve. And while we were sort of doing our management consultant approach to looking at the whole world, looking for a problem to solve, it landed in our laps. And Tessa, my co-founder, was moving house, and she had some non-perishable food she'd assumed that she would pack. But the people who were helping her said, you can't pack any food, you have to throw it away, which she was not going to do. She's a farmer's daughter. To cut a long story short, she tried to give it away, like on the streets, to someone random. It didn't work, and she ended up smuggling the food in her packing box anyway. And that was really the light bulb moment where we realized, obviously, there was someone nearby who would have loved to have that food. Why can't we use mobile technology? The sharing economy was booming to connect supply, surplus food with demand. But it was really when we then did a quick Google search and realized that 40% of all the food that we produce is never eaten, and that food loss accounts for 10% of global carbon emissions. So it's really tragic for the environment. And of course, you've got the twin evil of nearly 1 billion people going to bed hungry every night. So we had massive problem, massive market inefficiency, over $1 trillion worth of food going to waste. And our idea was really simple, just to build an app that could connect supply, surplus food with demand. And we launched in the App Store in July 2015, so almost exactly 10 years ago. And the way that we sort of got the flywheel going really was sort of really, really basic. It was definitely the definition of doing things that don't scale. So in the sort of 2 or 3 months leading up to when we launched, we chose one small neighborhood because we knew we needed to get to network density. Like, we had to have enough people who would be willing to, because food is perishable, because it is low value. We have to facilitate that collection and that exchange of that liquidity of the marketplace at the hyper-local level. So we have to have a dense enough users. You're not going to travel across town for a slice of pizza. I mean, you might if it's really good pizza, but maybe not if it's your neighbor who's giving away their slice of pizza from their home. You might walk around the corner, or maybe walk 5 or 10 minutes, or tie it into a trip to pick up your kid from school or something like that. And so in the area where we got started, we were just everywhere. We stood on the street corner. We took people's email addresses. We hand-delivered 10,000 letters, letting people know that they could come to our website to pre-register. We joined every Facebook group. I belong to hundreds and hundreds of Facebook groups now, sort of all around the world. You can't really use that strategy. So we did all of these like lo-fi manual ways of just getting people to sign up and pre-register. That gave us our initial base. And what we hadn't planned on, but which is now 100% core to how we've scaled now from over the last 10 years is that we had people step forward to say, I absolutely love what you're doing. I want to live in a world where food doesn't go to waste and it's eaten instead. How can I help? And on the day we launched, we had about 2,500 people who had signed up, ready, pre-registered to be notified when we launched. And we had 30 people who said, I'm going to volunteer for free to help make this happen. And we put them in a WhatsApp group. And these was the invisible hand of the marketplace. So when someone in that group, in that area in North London, gave something away and no one requested it, after a little while, we asked a volunteer to go pick it up innocently, obviously without disclosing that they were a volunteer. And that we finessed basically the liquidity in the beginning. And we also then basically built in, as we got more users, we automatically asked every single user, do you want to help become a volunteer? And consistently, 2% approximately of people who sign up have gone on to become, of active users have gone on to become a volunteer. And we've got about 200,000 volunteers right now. Half of them sort of out there really spreading the word about Olio. I could go on and on about this. And the other half collecting surplus food. So one is demand and one is supply. And both of those in tandem have enabled us to scale very, very cost effectively.
Yeah, that's amazing. So these volunteers, some of them are kind of like couriers helping to share the food?
So in the beginning, the volunteers just sort of helped to match supply and demand so that if someone came on and took the risk of saying, you know what, I'm going to, share half a birthday cake left over from my son's birthday party, it's a very vulnerable thing to do. It's a bit unusual, even though humans have been sharing for a long time, using an app to share food with a stranger. So, to help make sure that those early adopters had a positive experience and didn't abandon the app, if we needed, which was not all the time at all, but if we needed, we would, match a volunteer. Now it's very different. Now we have two types of volunteers. Ambassadors. Ambassadors basically are given a hyperlocal marketing kit and a step-by-step guide, and it enables them to go out and activate their community. It includes flyers and posters and like sample press releases to share. It's just a whole kit. It's a whole guide, and it's all done in a very social and structured way, with badges and milestones and all of everything you would imagine. And that's why we've seen sharing take place successfully in 64 countries, because individuals all over the world, anyone can basically take the initiative to start a sharing network in their community. On the supply side, we have 140,000 food waste heroes. This is also how we've monetized. So these volunteers go through an online food safety training program and they register their kitchen. And then that means that they are certified or eligible to pick up surplus food from businesses. Businesses pay us to arrange for the safe and reliable collection of unsold, like at supermarkets or, pret-a-manger, those types of places, unsold food or unserved. Unserved food is like catered food at an office, a hospital, a school, a football stadium. So where there's edible surplus food, the volunteers pick up that food, and then they take it home and they quickly add it to the app, and their neighbors request it in the normal fashion, and they come around to their house like immediately and pick up the food. That process, right? That process of collecting unsold or unserved food from businesses and then distributing it from your home to the community is happening 200,000 times a month, and it's the equivalent of 3 million meals every month that's given away through that volunteer network for free.
Wow.
And so that is at scale now. Obviously, there's a lot of work that's gone into how we've managed to build that, scale it, monetize it, ensure that it, we're now at 100. We actually just won an award last night. I won't go into the details, but for our food safety, environmental health office, like for the work that we've done partnering with the environmental health and regulatory bodies in the UK. So it's a public-private partnership award. So over 100 million meals with 0 food safety incidents.
Wow.
Which requires a very high level of technical control and auditing to enable that.
Yeah, I would think one of the initial hurdles is food safety and government regulations who don't let anyone just set up a restaurant from their house.
Yeah.
How did you overcome that hurdle?
Yep. So we have had assured advice, which basically means sign off and sponsorship from our home our primary authority, which is like our home environmental health advisor, I guess, which is in a particular part of England, South Derbyshire. It's complicated. I didn't know any of this when I first started out. And you're right, absolutely right, that if you are regularly doing anything with regard to food that then is being given to other people or sold to other people from your home, you need to register your home with the local authority, and you're subject to random inspections, etc. Now, when we told the government that we were going to have 150,000 people go through a training, eventually, and that they might all be distributing food from their homes, would you like to go and inspect their homes? So they've just said, absolutely not. Like, there's no way that we could do this. We don't have the resources to do that. So we basically have come up with and agreed a different way of monitoring and regulating the safe redistribution of food from their home. And it involves an exemption, involves different interpretations of the law that have been signed off. And then we've sort of co-crafted that. We've had that for the last 7 years. And it really is, I would say, one of our proprietary things that we built and we've developed. It's very innovative. No one else is doing that. But we had to be able to work with a regulator who, to their credit, really had okay, the world's changing. Apps are becoming a thing. There's a public good argument. Like, all of this food would have gone to waste. Mm-hmm. That costs local governments. They have to, that's obviously not the optimal outcome. Meanwhile, there's a lot of people who need that food. And we aren't just trying to get food to the hungry, to be clear. But of course, people who are picking up the food, many of them are in vulnerable situations. So if the government's thinking about all the outcomes that they need to optimize for, environmental outcomes, reducing food to landfill or waste streams, social outcomes, increasing like nutritional access to nutritional food, for et cetera, they realized that actually if they could work with us, we could help them solve lots of different problems at once. So the short answer is it's been a lot of work. The short answer has been a lot of work, but also, like, it was a key and it was a fundamental enabler, because the businesses we collect from, and we collect from like pretty much every supermarket in the UK, like most, Tesco, Sainsbury's, Waitrose, Asda, etc. Like, they were not going to work with us if we didn't have that. They didn't have the confidence and like the trust in our food safety management system, which we needed. So, a lot of work. Proprietary.
Yeah, but it sounds like a case of tech influencing government.
Yes.
Into changing regulations that are probably outdated, don't make too much sense.
Yes. And we keep pushing the boundaries on this. Like, hot food, for a variety, without getting too technical, like, there's a lot of challenges with hot food. You're thinking about temperature control, you're thinking about packaging, you're thinking about allergen labeling, et cetera, et cetera. So we are continuing to sort of push the boundaries, and we do collect hot food at scale. But it's very difficult to do within the current regulatory constructs. So we've had to say, well, what about this? What about this? What about this? Let's just try it. Let's see what happens. And, take a real test and learn approach, of course, with zero tolerance for anything unsafe. But I think that they've been real partners in this. There's other markets. So in Singapore, we've worked with the regulators there. They've also taken a very practical approach. In Ireland, which is part of the EU, obviously, we've not been able to get the same exemptions. So that means that every one of our volunteers does have to actually go through a process of registering with their local authority, which, anytime you're working with local government, that can be quite overwhelming. So what we've done is just demystify it, make it really simple, and try and basically make that process as simple as possible.
So I want to talk about this explosive user growth. From what I read, 6.3 million users are roughly around 2022, and now you're at 8 million users.
Yeah.
What is
That's not that explosive.
Yeah. I mean, compared to, let's say, ChatGPT or... Yeah. But what is motivating people to sign up? Is it that they want free food and want to save money, or is there another kind of community building aspect to it?
It's a good question. And we do have, and have consistently had now for several years, about 70,000 purely organic signups every single month. And I think there's just a really strong word of mouth, right? Like, I can get access to free food or books or toys or clothes, and also you can lend and borrow things. So I think there is that like virality built into it, especially as people we make it really easy for people to share listings and share information from the app that people can then onward forward through WhatsApp or whatnot. But we also, of not insignificant, so 25-30% of people come into Olio because we ask them when they arrive, why are you here? And they're not coming to get something for free. They're coming to give away stuff. So there's a massive, especially moms with small kids. Like there's a real lot of stuff that comes through your house. And as children outgrow things and go through different stages, there's just this like constant inventory management problem. And so Olio is purpose built for decluttering in a way that is, I think, superior to a lot of the other platforms where you could go to Facebook Marketplace or Gumtree, etc. But we've got a lot of things that we've built that just make it feel a lot nicer. It's a lot friendlier. We have a zero tolerance approach to no-shows. It's all rooted in sustainability. We tell people what their carbon impact has been, what money they've saved. So there's a lot that we do, I think, to try and position ourselves as the go-to platform for decluttering for busy moms who care about the environment in their community. However, I think the main thing is that we could just get a lot of organic press. So we're two moms on a mission to save the planet, for better or worse. So double female founded team. And, we're talking about trying to solve like one of the world's stupidest problems. Everyone agrees that letting $1 trillion worth of food go to waste while 1 billion people are hungry whilst we're cooking the planet, and that we have no credible path to feeding us because the population is going to be 10 billion by the end of the decade, by the 2050. Like everyone sort of can see that this is a suboptimal outcome, to say the least. And so I think that sometimes the most obvious problems that remain unsolved are the ones that are the most get people's attention. People are very emotionally attached to food as well. This is not, it really tugs at people's heartstrings. So I think all of that organic media has really helped with the user growth as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's incredible. And I mean, you hear the term shopping therapy, but I feel great when I can declutter my room, my house. For me, that feels better than just going out and shopping. And I think maybe that's something that why the users, they download the app and then they can declutter, and then it's just a great feeling.
It is a great feeling, especially someone asked me yesterday in an interview, what's been like one of my most satisfying things I've given away on Olio. And I said, basically, I had a mouth guard fitted for it because I grind my teeth. And then afterwards, I had the mold, just like the plastic mold, which couldn't be used really again. Mouth guards are expensive. I was not going to get another one. But I just couldn't bring myself to throw it away. So I was like, I put it on the app, and it was requested almost instantly by a teacher who wanted to use it as a prop for World Book Day because they were all reading like a book about Dr. Dentist or something like that. And that's quite a magical experience where something that's literally just destined for the bin has been rescued, and then not only rescued, just like gratefully received by someone who lives around the corner. So it's very difficult to not have not to feel good about that type of experience. Sharing feels good.
I have to ask you, are you lending out your Monopoly set?
Did you look at my profile?
I saw, somehow I was just scrolling around and I saw you're lending out your Monopoly set.
I have, and I've lended it out several times.
And it comes back.
It does come back, actually. In fact, one time I'm mortified because I lent it out and the board wasn't in there. And this woman who borrowed it, I don't know why, my son had not put it back in, and she was going to use it for her son's birthday party. But luckily they had lots of other games. But I felt really, really bad. Yeah.
So you're, at your core, you're still a businesswoman, right?
Yep. Card-carrying capitalist. Yeah.
And an American, which is interesting, based in the UK. So what about the business side? How does that work at Olio?
So the businesses, we absolutely have to have a sustainable business model. We're VC funded. Like they're all going to want a return on their investment at some point. Although from the beginning, we've always said that we're not following the sort of 5 to 7 year VC cycle. We're long-term patient capital, 10 years plus. Building a marketplace takes time to do that. So I love our investors and our boards. We've not had any issue with that. But of course, we need to have a credible path to not just profitability, but being able to reinvest and put money in at the top, have money and impact come out at the bottom. So we charge businesses We provide a service to businesses, and it varies depending on scale. But businesses would otherwise have to pay for the waste disposal. A, B, they've got net zero and CSR, public food waste reduction targets, and it's impossible to meet those targets when you're throwing away so much food. And C, staff and customers absolutely hate seeing businesses throw away good food. So it took a while in the beginning to persuade businesses that not only should they give their surplus to us and it wasn't going to cannibalize sales, but they should pay us as on top of it. And then the next step was to get them to shout from the rooftops about it. All of that has been a bit of a process. But we, so we earn revenue from the businesses. And then we also have advertising in the app, and we have a premium version of the app that users can subscribe to for extra features and an ad-free experience. And we're well on the path to profitability, and it's in my line of sight. We're not quite there yet, but luckily we raised that nice Series B, and we didn't spend it all, so we've got plenty of time to figure it out.
So I'm curious about your East Asia strategy, because we're based out there in Taiwan, and that's a culture where people are religious about recycling. There's even more of that don't waste food because it goes back to Chinese culture, and we're not supposed to waste food, and the gods are watching. And so how are you planning to expand out there, and how did you get the initial traction in Singapore going?
So after the Series B, before the market became much more risk averse and growth at all costs was no longer a thing. But before that, we had an international team sort of helping us figure out, really focused on expanding and growing internationally. And we invested considerably into Latin America, Singapore, a bit in Australia, Sweden, a few other places. But the thing is, Olio is a bit like a utility or infrastructure. You sort of need to get to minimum viable scale with regard to enough, people, a number of people who have downloaded the app in the network and haven't deleted it. And once you get to that scale, then it can run on autopilot because we've built in all of the checks and balances required to make the community run. But when it's subscale, it's a crappy experience. People don't try it again. They delete the app, and you can't really get that liquidity, that minimum liquidity you need. 2 out of 3 times, if you put something on Olio, someone comes and picks it up, you're going to come back. But if it's 1 out of 3 times, it's just not worth it. You're not going to use it again. So where I'm going with that is originally our plan for market entry, because someone needs to subsidize the building of the infrastructure, the network, the utility. And originally it was our VCs who wanted us to build this in multiple markets, upon which then we could layer monetization and et cetera. But now I think what we've come to realize is that's not a viable growth strategy. And so what we need to do is to find either a retailer, a national retailer, or government to basically subsidize market entry. So on the consumer side, the neighbor-to-neighbor side, we continue to have tons of people organically using the app in their user-generated content. It's user-generated content. You can use it in any language. It's fine. It just sort of works anywhere. And that just sort of has a life of its own. But on the business side, to really operate at scale in a market, it needs to be either a GovTech or a retailer subsidized entry. So one of the mistakes we made is that we thought that once we launched with Tesco in 2021 here in the UK, we just really assumed that where Tesco goes, the rest will follow because they're a market leader. But actually, they're 5 to 10 years ahead of many, many food businesses in terms of their commitment to and clarity of food waste reduction strategies. So it's taken the last 5 years for the rest of the retailers in the UK to catch up. And it's only just starting to become something that retailers outside of the UK are starting to really look at seriously. And we've been impatiently waiting for that to happen. And the good news is it is happening. So I can count at least half a dozen delegations that have come from other countries actually had Japan and Singapore both send delegates in the last 6 months, and they've come and they've met with Tesco, and Tesco is we're one of their, we are their biggest food redistribution partner. And they've come and they visit stores, they talk to volunteers, they sort of see how everything works. So on the back of that, then these delegates go back to their government or to the retailer, and they're like, this is what we need to do, this is what's best practice. Olio is a part of that, and then they're coming to us and saying, like, how can we bring Olio to our market? So I guess what I'm trying to say is that's our proposed approach now, which is like we have to have the poll and it has to be financed because we don't have the resources to do it ourselves. But the initial traction in Singapore came from one volunteer 9 years ago who got really excited. Like in the very beginning, was one of our early adopters, and they went to Singapore and they just started signing people up. And now we've got 200,000 people there. It's one of our most active markets from a listings perspective. We've had 1.5 million listings. We do have a food partner there. 77,000 kilos have been collected by 220 volunteers and redistributed to 3,300 families. So it is quite an active market, but it's completely on autopilot right now. Wow. Like we don't have any dedicated resource to manage it. But we are about to launch a pilot with one of the biggest retailers there in July. And so that should really help catapult that market into the next level.
Wow, great.
But with regard to the other markets, I guess it's all about pull.
Yeah.
And so someone's going to have to decide that food waste is really important to them. And when they do, they'll look around the world and they'll say, who's doing it the best? And they will come and talk to us.
Yeah. Wow, that's an incredible story. And I feel ashamed that I had never really used Olio in the past, but I will.
But you do live in Taipei, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I absolutely have no idea how many people, if any, are in Taipei. But I bet there's some of them. Have a look and let me know.
Yeah, I will let you know. I'll follow up.
And you can always be the first one.
Yeah, I mean, it's inspiring that one guy or one woman started all that traction in Singapore.
Yes.
And it's the power of individuals. We underestimate that. And
we do. I absolutely agree.
And I also love the fact that this is like an online to offline business, because we're seeing more and more of that. People are tired of spending times on screens, and they want to connect with the community again.
Yeah.
And this is a great way to do it. So.
Yeah, I mean, that's an excellent point, and it really is true. People come for a functional reason, but they stay because there's not that many ways that you can meet someone like-minded in real life, even if it's just for the briefest of moments. It's just like such a human thing to do. Yesterday, I met a volunteer at London Tech Week who came up to me after something when I was speaking, and she said that she's met all of her best friends through Olio. Wow. And we've got lots of stories of people finding flatmates, finding jobs, getting married, etc., because they've met people in the app. So, and that's really important. Like we often say, we're not just facing an environmental crisis, we're facing a mental health crisis, a loneliness epidemic. Here in the UK, they've actually created a government position. I'm blanking on it, but I think it's the loneliness czar, which seems a bit odd now that I say that out loud, but just a dedicated, resource and leadership to look at the problem of people feeling lonely and disconnected from their community. Yeah. I think we should have one day. I sort of, I'm getting sidetracked now, but like I sort of missed. There's a couple things I miss. One, I sort of miss a little bit of the COVID where you were forced to stay home. Like, so I keep thinking every other weekend, if we all just sort of like stay local, just have block parties and, you don't have to socially distance, but just like don't make any plans. That would be lovely. And I'd love to have like screen-free Saturdays or something like that as well.
Yeah. I mean, all those things are doable.
Yeah.
Probably in the evolution.
I do have an app though, so.
Yeah, it's kind of a contradiction.
Exactly.
Well, great. Yeah, thanks for coming on the show. It's really interesting. Really looking forward to seeing how Olio expands and develops and grows, and you're fighting a good fight.
Thank you. I hope all of your listeners download the app and give sharing a go, because every share does count.
Yes. Download the app, give it a try, and thanks for coming.
My pleasure. Thank you.